about how often you'll begin a sentence with at least. Well, I mean, at least I finished most of the assignment. At least. Is that what you want for your life? At least. And then it becomes even more complicated when you start thinking about if you're going to have children someday. Do you want your children to see you as a role model, as someone who just settles, who just stays comfortable? And here's a really, really hard one. Anybody who's going to become parents, I don't envy you this one single bit. You struggle, and you create a really comfortable life for your kids. You see the problem there? If they have a comfortable life, do they have the ability to overcome difficulty and struggle? No. So you can create such a comfortable life for your kids that they don't know how to live. They don't know how to achieve for themselves. It really matters whether you choose this life or that life. And excuses are always there. Excuses are always there. There's lots of excuses. And what's worse than excuses is reasons. Because sometimes excuses are really good. I don't mean this in like some hippy-dippy way. I really, really don't mean it this way. But man, like what you can accomplish, you'll never know unless you push yourself into those areas of struggle. And I hate that. I hate that because I see so many of my students around San Diego just doing what I do. As long as I've been doing it, I come across a lot of students, man. I just see so many of my students who are just doing things that could be doing so much more. And I don't mean that in the sense that the job that they're doing sucks, although it does suck. I'm not saying it anyway except that I knew that person and I knew that 18-year-old them would never have settled into what they had settled into. It's nothing that they would have been happy with at the time, and they're not happy with it at that point either. They're just living a life of quiet desperation, and you can see it in people's eyes. Why avoid pain? Why avoid suffering? I know that for most of us it just sounds like, duh, it's obvious why you would. And it's obvious why you'd want to if you're your cat, if you're your dog. But as a self-aware bipedal, why would you want to avoid it when you know that that's one of the things that makes you stronger and better? Is your goal in life to be better? Or is your goal in life to be comfortable? Yeah. And I won't ask you to raise your hand, but I will ask you to think about that. Is your goal in life to be comfortable, or is your goal in life to be better? And then I'd ask you, do your actions match that? In other words, I imagine most of us just want to be comfortable. We'll talk, and that's one of those paradoxes where we say, we like to quote Nietzsche without realizing that we're doing it. And we'll scratch our chins and we'll frown and say, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Now, that's because we'll say that because we're being forced to go through a difficult time probably. Or we've made some decisions that have put us in a difficult time. And we'll say that as a way of almost relinquishing the responsibility for being there, or relinquishing the responsibility of making the most of it, or relinquishing the responsibility of even just making something good of it. It's kind of like when someone says karma, like something bad happens to you and you go, well, you know what? Karma. Karma's going to get that person. Karma's going to get that person. We all go, yeah, that's right. You know what? I'm going to leave it to karma. I'm going to leave it to the universe. That's a way of relinquishing responsibility. Do you really believe that karma is going to get that person? Because if you do believe in karma, then you have to believe that the bad thing that person did to you was because of something bad you did. And so therefore you deserved what you got. But we don't like to think of it that way. We like to think of it as, no, I didn't deserve it. That person did it to me, so therefore karma's going to catch up with them. Well, then again, that's a paradox. I was completely innocent when that person did it to me, and so therefore karma is going to get them. Well, then you must have done something terrible also there. So therefore, when that terrible thing happened to you, you should celebrate and say, good. Now the universe is even. The balance is out. It makes sense now. But we don't think of it this way because we think of it only from our own selfish perspective. It's the thing that I want. So again, I go back to that question, which is the thing that you truly want. Do you want to be stronger, or do you want to be comfortable? Because comfort is the enemy of improvement. Comfort is a wicked seducer, man. Comfort is the thing that tells you, you know what, I could go and fill in the blank, put in extra hours at work. I could go to the gym. I could get up and study. I could get up and do my chores. I could fill in the blank of whatever it is. Or I could stay in this really nice warm bed. Anybody have that struggle this morning? Yeah. And you're all here right now, which means that you overcame that the stronger part of you is the thing that bared out. So you exercised your strength by being here today. Now, some people will be like, I'll get there eventually. It's compromising what you could have been, because the fact that you got here, it all tells you that you could have been here at a better time. You could have been here earlier. Yeah, but, okay, then again, you're robbing yourself of what you could have been. And it isn't just that, like, oh, I could have been on time. No. It's not just that at all. It's that you could have demonstrated yourself to be strong enough to have been there. In other words, you exercise that overcoming muscle in yourself. Because a lot of times we settle for good enough rather than seeing the world in terms of black and white. Like, not just, you either do it or you don't. You're either fulfilling the responsibility or you don't. Well, kind of settle into, well, I did most of it. Like, think about how often you'll begin a sentence with "at least." And some of you, when you do that to me, you'll hear me repeat that back to you. Well, at least, right? Yeah, at least. Well, at least I finished most of the assignment. At least. Is that what you want for your life? At least. Or are you capable of more? And the more that you exercise that, of course, the more that you become. But moreover, and the really important part of it is that the more that you overcome, the more you see that you're actually capable of overcoming. Like, I was talking to a class yesterday, and I was saying that I find when I talk to you guys, and I mean this overwhelmingly, is that, and it's hard to say because it just sounds like some kind of a silly rah-rah speech when we say, oh, but you're capable of so much more. So going back to that thing about the life, do you want a comfortable life or do you want a life of achievement? And by the way, I don't ask that like in like this like head swinging, finger wagging kind of a way. It's a real question, because most of us live in a time when you really could live a mostly comfortable life. Really, if you think about what kind of struggle you have every day. If you could walk down the street right now to 7-Eleven and get a couple of hot dogs and consume almost 2,000 calories. 2,000 and doing that would cost you about, 25 calories to go over there and get them. And even paying for it, you just have to swipe a card. You don't have to pay much attention to it. Everything is so automated now. Whereas before, you'd have to spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of calories chasing down animals or growing stuff or hoping that the weather changes so that your vegetables grow. Even now, like our biggest struggle now is, I go to the store and they don't have ripe avocados. And I'm like, they never have ripe avocados. My life is so hard. That's the kind of stuff that we struggle with. And even the difficulties that we do have. I'm not saying that we don't have any struggles at all, but the struggles that we have compared to what they could be. Now, again, that doesn't make them any easier for you, of course. They're still difficult struggles, naturally. But that's a real question, because sometimes what that therefore means is that you have to create your own struggles if you're going to become stronger. You have to make your life a little bit harder. You have to put yourself through some challenges. And so that's why I go back to that question before about there are people who are afraid of being successful, and then there are people who are afraid of trying. And those are two different things. A person who's afraid of trying is afraid that they're going to fail. There are people who are afraid of actually being successful. This is one of those reasons I was talking about, like, for example, if you're dating someone who's a poet, I was telling you, an artist, run. Why? Because what does the artist write about? How many great poems and movies do you know about comfort? How many great songs have been written about a comfortable life? A few. Even the funny ones. Like, what's the song by Terrell, Happy? Song Happy by Terrell? Yeah, it's like, the song is written about him wanting to kill himself. he just writes it in a very poppy way that sounds happy. It's a sarcastic song. Maybe you guys know the song Today by the Smashing Pumpkins. The first line is, "Today is the greatest day I've ever known. Can't live for tomorrow." He's like, today's a great day. He was writing about it because he was suicidal. He wanted to kill himself. He's writing it sarcastically. So sometimes even the songs that sound comfortable, they're really not. They're about this thing right here, struggle. Think about how it is that you become better. If you're standing up here right now, I take my finger and I put it into your arm like this. You might be like, "What are you doing, Scallon?" "I'm just poking you." "Why?" "Because I can." Like, well, I'm not going to move. Screw you. And after a while, maybe an hour, 2 hours, a day or something, you're like, "Dude, stop." Or maybe they do it right away. But you see what happened. Why did you move? Because you were uncomfortable. Now, that's a literal sense of being uncomfortable, but that's also one of the things that motivates you in your life. You're sitting there one day in your job and you say, "This sucks. This is as far as I'm ever going to go. I'm going to take a night class then. That way I can get a certification. That way I can move up in my company." You don't move up in your company unless when you're comfortable with where you are. And sometimes that comfort means you need more money, but sometimes that comfort is you just kind of look at the company and you go, "Gosh, I'm doing this job right now, but I could be doing so much more. I could be doing so much more." It's like a company I just think about it for some reason is In-N-Out. If anybody work at In-N-Out? Any chance? I've had students who work there. Everybody who works at In-N-Out, from the manager all the way up to the people who run the company, the CEO, they all started in exactly the same place, in the lobby, cleaning the lobby. Everybody who gets hired there starts there. And then you learn the whole business working your way up from there. And then it's one of those few companies that you really can move up all the way to CEO. Literally, the guy everybody who's on the executive team there started working in the restaurant. They didn't go to Harvard Business School and hire people to come in and run the company. That's one of the reasons the companies run so differently. So what that means is that if you go there, and they pay pretty well compared to the other jobs, you can sit there in the lobby earning whatever it is, an hour that they pay now, and you could say, "I'm comfortable here." But then when you see people who got hired with you and you see them moving up and you're like, so they're actually getting some responsibility, they're getting some experience. I could be doing that though. Am I really going to settle for just this? And then it becomes even more complicated when you start thinking about if you're going to have children someday. Do you want your children to see you as a role model, as someone who just settles, who just stays comfortable? And here's a really, really hard one. Anybody who's going to become parents, I don't envy you this one single bit. You struggle, and you create a really comfortable life for your kids. You see the problem there? If they have a comfortable life, do they have the ability to overcome difficulty and struggle? No. So you can create such a comfortable life for your kids that they don't know how to live. They don't know how to achieve for themselves. And this is one of those reasons I've told you before that wealth in this country is generational. You've got a first generation that actually earns the money, and they usually come from nothing. They work their ass off, they save, they invest, and then they make something of themselves. And in that process, they have children. So the children get to see how hard it is to earn money and to run a company. And so they tend to maintain the wealth. But the grandchildren are typically the ones who lose the wealth because they weren't there when it was being earned. They don't know what it looks like to actually have to earn and struggle. And so they just inherit the money. So for them, it's just they just spend the money. They don't know how to invest it. They don't know how to work with people because they were also raised in areas of privilege where they don't have to interact with normal people. When you're having to earn the money, you have to know how to work with people, everyday people. When you're those kids, that's who you see. When you're growing up in these enclaves of privilege, you never have to interact with normal people. So you never, develop that skill set. And so this is one of those paradoxes. Because this comfortable life will not lead to a life of achievement. The things that you say you want to accomplish, unless what you want to accomplish is a comfortable life. But even then, I don't know if it'll be as comfortable at the end as you might think. Because you're going to know you could have been something else. You could have been better. You could have been a better role model. You could have been a better this or a better that. If only. If only. But that's the hard part, man. That's so seductive, isn't it? And some of you, I imagine almost all of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Every morning when that alarm goes off, especially these days when it's cold out. and you ask yourself, just 9 more minutes, hit the snooze button. Does 9 more minutes actually give you more sleep? Does any of you, like, the alarm goes off, you hit the snooze, then it comes off, and I go, whoa, now I'm ready to go. Those extra 9 minutes really helped. Or does that just make it harder and harder? And then you can even justify it, like, do I have to go to school today? Do I have to go to work today? You know, if you're struggling enough, then you do have to. And so, yeah, there are a lot of paradoxes and it's that consequential part. That's the important part. Meaning that it's what makes things matter. It really matters whether you choose this life or that life. And excuses are always there. Excuses are always there. There's lots of excuses. And what's worse than excuses is reasons. Because sometimes the excuses are really good. But sometimes, man, they're just, the reasons are the really hard parts. I'll leave with this. I was talking to someone last night. She was at my gym. I've met her once before, but I'm at a new gym now. So this is the first time she's come through. She's a higher level student, and got talking to her, and she posted something on Instagram over the weekend with herself, showing herself at a competition that she won. And she said, that's it, man, no more waiting around. 2025, I'm back at it. Doing what I do, you hear that all the time. And so normally when someone says, you know what, new year, new me, or you know what, I'm back at it, no more waiting, no more, I always go, okay, we'll see. Because that's so alluring. Think about what we do. I tell people in the gym, we put on what look like pajamas and we try to kill each other. We choke each other, we break arms. I was wrong with a guy last night. He turned the wrong way and his elbow popped, which means he's gonna have a sore elbow for the next 3 to 4 months. For one silly, because he moved like this, just a few inches. It doesn't make any sense what we do. Wouldn't we all rather just be at home where it's comfortable, heated, not getting our elbows broken, not choking? There's something to that struggle though. So anyway, she was telling me that she's been out of, I was asking her last night, how long you been out of training? And she said, over a year. I'm like, wow, that's hard to come back from. Why was she gone for over a year? Because she broke her back and she had to have back surgery. And the doctors told her, don't ever go back to jiu-jitsu. It's terrible for you, don't do it. Because one turn, one bad this, one bad that. In fact, they weren't even sure she'd ever even walk again. And I'm like, but you're here. And she's like, yeah. I said, that's stupid. And she says, I know. She said, the whole thing of what we do here is stupid. And she was saying that being at home, though, it seems nice. And she had not just an excuse, she has every reason not to be there. Every reason. Doctor's telling her, you may not even walk again. She's walking again. You may never run again. She's at physical therapy. She's back to jogging. But, you may never do jiu-jitsu again. She was on the mat last night for the first time. And of course, the first night she comes back, what are we doing? Takedowns. Grabbing people and throwing them. That's the first thing she's there for, with her back. Yeah, welcome back, Like everything is against her, and she has every reason not to be there. But whether you see it as a reason or whether you see it as an excuse is kind of immaterial. The point is you either do it or you don't. And she was telling me that like she'd gained like 40 pounds or something like that, 30, 40 pounds just from being out. She was going through a depression, which meant that she was struggling to even do her other life things. Because it's not just that you can't do the thing you love, it makes you wonder if you can do anything at all. And that's part of that struggle. If you aren't, let's say that you apply to a college and you don't get in, it's not just that you can't go to that college, it makes you question your whole worth. You apply for a job, you don't get it. That can make you question your whole worth. Nobody, oh my God, they didn't want me. That might mean I'm not good enough for anything else. That's the thing, it can cause you to question your whole worth. This comfort though, man, it never lets you see your full worth. I'm not sure which is worse. Actually, I do know which is worse. I can tell you, that one. So, what I was saying before she came in, I don't mean this in like some hippy-dippy way. I really, really don't mean it this way. But man, like what you can accomplish, you'll never know unless you push yourself into those areas of struggle. And I hate that. I hate that because I see so many of my students around San Diego just doing what I do. As long as I've been doing it, I come across a lot of students, man. I came across a guy that, and I just see so many of my students who are just doing things that could be doing so much more. And I don't mean that in the sense that the job that they're doing sucks, although it does suck. I'm not saying it any way except that I knew that person, and I knew that 18-year-old them would never have settled into what they had settled into. It's nothing that they would have been happy with at the time, and they're not happy with it at that point either. They're just living a life of quiet desperation, and you can see it in people's eyes. There are some people I know who are working what we would call menial jobs, but they don't mind it. They like it. It gives them enough to get by, and it gives them enough to provide for their families that they have, and that's what they're really after, to provide for your families, and that's dope. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's that thing when you sit there and you go like I'm thinking of one kid right now, not even a kid anymore, he's like 30. He's got to be, no joke, I've met a lot of people in my life, man. This guy's one of the top 5, certainly top 10 smartest people I've ever met in my life. In terms of just brain power and able to figure stuff out. And he's doing nothing with it. And it's killing him because he's aware that he's doing nothing with it. And it bothers him because his mind is so active and he's doing stuff that doesn't actually maximize that part of him, And that's the part that sucks. It's that life of quiet desperation. And he's 30 now, so he shrugs his shoulders and he's like, well, nothing I can do about it now. There's always something you can do about it. So, I'm rambling now. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Tuesday. They can't all be bangers, You guys started well, though.